moment of truth. It's looking all spick and span for its roadworthy. Guy's on his way. Fingers crossed. So I failed on a couple of little things. One being that the steering wheel, because it's old and perished, it's the rubber's like rolling around. So that's easy enough. Just inject some glue in there. And I had a small oil leak at the back of the engine, so let's have a look. Really not looking forward to this job. It's a bit wet under here. Some of it's some oil that I spilled. Some of it's probably old power steering fluid. So I'm going to give it a really good clean up and yeah, just kind of see where it's leaking out after that. Also, after a good clean, left it for a while. Doesn't seem to be any new oil leaking from anywhere, which is good. I'm thinking that was probably just power steering fluid.
Nice.
So it's decided not to start all of a sudden. At the moment it's cranking and turning over really nice, but not starting. And then when I check the spark, there's no spark. And because it's just suddenly happened, it wasn't misfiring or anything before that. I'm kind of thinking it's this crank angle sensor. So luckily I got a spare one. It's pretty easy to swap out. It's just tucked away in there. There's two 7mm bolts, and you just pop that out, plug a new one in, and hopefully that will start it. This is what the sensor looks like. On my Fairmont, when I first got that, they had a similar issue. I actually had a broken crank angle sensor. I think it was only like 30 or 40 bucks from Repco, so a pretty cheap repair. But yeah, if you've got no spark, really hard starting and misfires, apparently this can be a likely cause. It's a little fiddly to get to. You have to take the fans shroud out, so pop that hose off, pull that out. It's just tucked away under there. That clip can be a bit of a pain to get out, but the new one's in. Let's give it a start. Alright, so that didn't seem to fix it, so I'm going to check the spark again. Okay, so I forgot to record that, but basically I checked all the spark, that was all fine, so it means that it's a fuel issue. So I sprayed some throttle body cleaner into the intake here, and while starting it, and managed to get it to fire up. Also fired flames into my hand. I guess the next thing is to see if it's getting fuel to the engine. I haven't noticed any blown fuses or anything. The fuel pump seems to turn on when I start it. I doubt all 6 injectors just failed like that. Let's have a look. Okay, I'm under my car without a jack, so it's pretty cramped under here. This hose line is just sitting on there. And that is an issue. The interesting thing is I didn't have any fuel leak underneath the car. Pop that on properly and check that again. fluid is going through the rail. So why is it not starting? So this is a bit weird. I've got spark, I've got fuel running to the rail, it's turning over. It's almost like all the injectors have just stopped. Got no codes on forescan either, I'm not sure. So I'm pretty stumped on this one. Seems to be voltage going, well, I checked the first injector, there seems to be voltage there. Could be a fuel pressure regulator, could be power to the injectors. So after a lot of head scratching and research online, so I replaced the sensor here, the crank angle sensor, but there's also this sensor here. So what I read online is someone else was having a similar issue. It sounded pretty similar to what I have. So one thing is that I did actually clean the front of the engine with degreaser quite heavily because I had some oil around there that I need to clean for the Roadworthy. Just suspecting that maybe I might have damaged this sensor here. I'm going to take this one off my spare engine and see if I can get it to work. Okay, I'm going to change a fuel filter. So first things first, make sure you always take out the relay for the fuel pump, which is this one here, and then we'll crank it over. So that's going to get rid of the pressure in the fuel lines. So on the Falcon, the fuel filter is under the passenger seat, on the passenger side, and it takes a 19 mil. Hold that there, and then a 14 mil. Okay, after dropping a phone, chuck the relay back in. Alright, so Mr. Roadworthy just came and checked out the few little things I need to fix. So it's got a Roadworthy now. It just doesn't start. Typical. Typical. So the next thing here is I'm going to pop the line off that goes to the rail and just see how that's flowing. If that's flowing alright, I don't have a fuel pressure gauge, so I can't check the fuel pressure at the rail. So the next thing I'll do is check the injectors and just see if they're actually pulsing. If they're pulsing and I've got fuel coming from there, I can check the voltage at the fuel pump. Alright, I think I might have jumped the gun on the fuel, making it to the fuel rail, because I just took the line off there and it was completely dry. Let's see how fast this drains out. Okay, well I guess we found the problem. There's no fuel at all going to the rails. I definitely do this with two people. Again, I find myself doing two people's work, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Had to put a piece of water under there. I just about punctured the tire there, which wouldn't have been great, but now I can access the fuel pump. So I'm gonna pop that out and just inspect it. These quick release hose irons, basically to remove them, you lift up the tab there, and then while gently pulling that way, rotate around and just flick the other one off, and then they pop straight out. Now that the lines are off, just have to tap out this key here and make sure that you clean the top of the fuel tank as well. You don't want any debris getting inside there. Try to do this one-handed. Now because I'm a parts hoarder, I've actually got two fuel tanks sitting right here. So that one's from an AU, this one's from a BA. I know that one is out of a running AU. I'm just going to pop that straight out, chuck it in the in the white ute and see if I can get it started. So the spare one looks pretty gross. It's very dry, but I'll just plug it in to see if I can get it to work. If not, we'll play around with the old one. Alright, let's see if this does the trick. Alright, so changing the pump didn't do anything. You can still hear it priming when I turn the key on, but it's just not pumping any fuel. I topped up even more fuel than it, so it's got probably close to a quarter of a tank or half a tank in there. Still nothing. I checked the voltage, it was roughly 10 to 11 volts, so actually a little bit low on there. So I just chucked 12 volts straight onto the pump and it's still not pumping. So I'm going to put the old pump back in and just test that with 12 volts direct. Other than that, I'm really out of ideas. So I just cleaned that ground. Seriously? Ground?